Hi, this is Laurie Mangold, and this is a video of basic hooping techniques. So this is video 1 that goes along with our embroidery basics class on how to do basic hooping. So the first thing I want to do is talk about the different hoops with the different machines. So Bernina hoops look like this. They have arrows on the inner, and this one actually is in upside down. So there are arrows, and you probably won't be able to see them, but if at home you're looking at your hoop, you'll find, and when you put the hoops together, the arrows on a Bernina hoop are at the bottom. The arrows on a basic baby lock hoop are at the top, and you want to line those up, okay? The multi-needle hoops have no arrows and can go on the machine in either direction, so that is something you're going to have to pay attention to. And the Bernette hoops also have arrows that go at the bottom, okay? The reason that's important to get the hoops in, the inner and the outer hoop in correctly, is because when we go to check to see if it's straight and we put the template in, we want the template to be in there correctly. So I'm sure you're wondering, what is she talking about, a template? We're going to get to that right now, okay? So here are your basic hoops. I'm going to slide these aside and work with the Bernina hoop right now. And before we start to even hoop, we have to take our item, and I've got a basic towel here, and we are going to mark across to where we want our design to be. And you can determine this by measuring, you can determine it by printing a template and auditioning, but once you determine where you want your embroidery to be, when we do basic hooping, what we're going to do is draw a cross, and the center of the cross is going to be where the center of the embroidery will go. And that way you'll know exactly how to line it up. Marking tools for this, I on this one used a marking pencil by Soline that has an eraser that takes these lines away. Whatever marking device you use, make sure you have tested it that the lines will go away. We've used Frixon quite a bit, but sometimes they leave shadow lines, so you want to check your marking pencil in a corner, mark it, erase it the way you're going to erase it, and then see if the marks go away. Once I have established where I want my embroidery to be, I'm going to flip this over, and I need to have a piece of stabilizer that is bigger than my hoop. It will not be stable if you just hoop like this, or you're trying to skimp and you put a piece of stabilizer on like this. Consider this stabilizer the foundation of a house, or the foundation of your embroidery, and you wouldn't build a house on half a foundation, and you don't want to embroider on half a foundation. I like to use 505 spray, which is an adhesive spray that allows this to stick to this and allows, when I hoop, for things to all hoop at the same time, so you don't get bubbles in your hooping. Normally I would spray this over a trash can or a box because you don't want this to get on your item or on your table. I'm going to flip this over and line it up behind where my cross is, smooth it down, and now if I pick this up, you can see, and if I flip it over, that it's nice and smooth. I'm not going to, when I hoop this, be chasing the stabilizer going one way and the towel going another way. Now, I like to use something that is non-slippery to put my hoop on. This is a piece of shelf liner. We have a new product coming that's called the Grippy Grid. That's a nice big mat you can put on your table, and it'll also protect your table if you happen to spray on it. And so that is something you may want to consider also. So now that I have this prepped and I know where I'm going to put my design, I am going to loosen my screw of my hoop. Now I think all of these have screws on them, and it is my belief that you want to loosen this a lot, because if you force the inner hoop into the outer hoop, you could end up with what's called hoop burn, which is a mark that is shiny and an imprint of the hoop on your fabric that may or may not come out if you wash it or steam it, okay? I put the hoop in front of me exactly how it's going to go on the machine, so I have a visual of how the towel needs to be hooped. Okay, I have the arrow down here, and I do this with all of the different brands. I take this and I place it over the hoop, and I'm feeling that I have stabilizer all the way around. At this point, I don't care where this cross is in the hoop. One of the things that you have to understand is that you're not always going to get this in the center of the hoop. Sometimes it's impossible. If I tried to get that in the center, I would be off my towel. You have the ability, all embroidery machines have the ability to move the design into position to stitch. So the biggest thing you want to worry about is just getting it straight. By doing the imprint, I can see it looks visually straight, and now I should be able to just pop this in with no effort like that whatsoever. Now, you should have gotten templates with all of your hoops. If I take my template and I put it in here, I'm going to tip this up a little bit and see if she can zoom in. You can see pretty clearly that this is not straight. Do you see how this line's traveling up this way and this line is also crooked? I don't need this center here, but what I want are these lines to be perpendicular and horizontal to match the grid. So by this being really loose, I can just pick up one corner, I can slide this over, and I can pop it in again, and I'm still not where I want to be. Okay, now I'm where I want to be. I'm going to hold it up again. So can you see that the lines that I drew are now perpendicular and horizontal to the lines on the grid? Now I know this is hooped straight, and all I have to do is carefully slide this over to the edge of the table, and then I'm going to hand tighten the screw. Now, I usually get it almost tight, not quite all the way, and I take the template out and I make sure that I don't have any extra what I call fabric or bubbles in here, and usually I won't if I've used the 505. I do a couple of more twists to tighten it up, and I pick it up, and now you can see it feels like a tambourine, and there's no extra fabric to push around, and I have a clear mark as to where I want my design. And I know it's probably bugging some of you that that's not in the center, but it's okay. When you come to class and we teach you how to actually do the embroidery, you're going to learn how to move your design over that spot so that you're good to go. Okay? So that is your basic hooping. Now, I will tell you that we have new machines now that have hooping aids. So if you have a baby lock, you may have the touch pen, you may have the sewing sticker, you may have the camera, you may have the projector. All of those things allow you to hoop and not have to hoop straight. You can just hoop and then use those tools to position your design and straighten it in the hoop. In the Bernina world, we have what's called pinpoint placement. And the same thing, we can just hoop crooked if we want, and then we can go and we can tell the machine where the center is and where a line is on one of the other, where a point is on one of the other lines. And it will center the design and it will rotate it to stitch in the angle you have hooped in. And so with all of those kinds of tools, this basic hooping may not apply to you, but I think sometimes we need to know the basics so that if we can't figure out one of our tools, we can always go back to, okay, I know if I hoop this straight and use my template, I'll be good to go. So that is your basic hooping video. I hope that makes sense to you. And then video number 2, we're going to talk about all the different kinds of items that you can embroider and how you would basically hoop them up.